Determining strategies. The 8 C's of strategy development that we talked about in Chapter 2 are guidelines for constructing social media marketing strategies for a particular organization. So you want to make sure to review those and to integrate them into your social media marketing plan document. However, like the general social media goals discussed above, these strategic guideposts only provide broad brushstrokes in the strategy design process. They must be fitted to fulfill a particular organization's social media goals. One size does not fit all. Some things may be applicable, some things may not. Some things that haven't been listed may be applicable. And it is part of doing that intense thought and planning in what it is going to require for your organization to be able to think about what those goals are and what sort of steps need to be taken in order to make those goals become realities in the future. All right, moving on. Identifying the target market. A company may already have an accurate understanding of the profile of its target audience. However, the behavior, interests, and tastes of that target market might be slightly or even radically different than what it is in person as opposed to on the social web. We tend to have different personalities and different personas when we're in the online space as opposed to when we're encountering people in real life. That tends to be true as well when we're talking about people that are associating with our organization or with our brand. They may act completely different online than what they would if we would encounter them in person or talk to them on the phone or converse through email. So just because you think you know your demographic, you think you know the psychographics of those that are part of your customer base, there may be some different considerations that you need to have when you deal with them in the social media landscape. So depending on the behavior of the target market, it is possible to determine which social media platforms these personas are most likely to frequent. So you want to be where your target audience is, and you want to communicate with them in the way that that target market expects in that particular platform. So now selecting platforms. Obviously, the social media platforms with the highest concentration of the target audience are the ones that should be chosen. You don't necessarily need to be in all places, and you don't necessarily need to do all the things in all the places, but you do need to know what your audience expects, where you can find them, and be able to deliver that content to them where they are. All right, implementing the plan. Implementation is the process whereby the goals, strategies, target markets, and tools are taken into consideration in creating actionable social media platform-specific tactics. So this is where we take everything that we've been putting down on paper and we actually make it happen. In addition, implementation includes the generation and distribution of content, as well as the assignment of staff to be responsible for preparing and carrying out platform-specific tactics and the development and dissemination of content on various platforms. Now, assignment of staff is going to be a rather important thing because it may not necessarily be the people that know all about computers and all about networking and how to set things up on the various platforms and all of that. The folks that you want generating content are going to be the folks that are very knowledgeable about the product or service that you're offering, about the sort of image that your brand is trying to create, and has knowledge on how to relate to the customer base to be able to communicate those things with them. So, if you're working in a automotive repair shop, your lead mechanic might be the best person to post content. If you're working in a nonprofit organization that works to help underprivileged children. You may want somebody with a strong social work background or a strong background in psychology to be able to post content, because they can talk about those things from a very knowledgeable standpoint, as opposed to somebody that knows their way around a particular platform or software or networking or whatever. Tactics for use of different platforms are listed in your textbook. You can review those, and depending on the platforms that are appropriate for the particular organization that you are putting a plan together for, those may be some tools that can help you. Now, creating content in the implementation process. Some general guidelines: development or acquiring content. Well, if you're going to put content out there, you need to have content to put out there. A thorough analysis of the content needs for each social media platform should be conducted, identifying the specific needs of each community, finding the gaps in content, and either creating or acquiring that content. So it's finding out what your audience wants or needs and somehow giving it to them. From there, you need to manage content. Regardless of whether platform content is prepared in-house or it's outsourced, it will still require editing and moderation. Editing of your own content, editing of the threads and the comments that are going on in light of that content. All of that needs to be reviewed and adjusted as the case calls for. Okay, content has been created, content has been managed. Now, let's cross-utilize the content that we have. A great way to leverage content across platforms is to restructure it for cross-platform utilization. Now, that may mean taking something that you used on Facebook and adjusting the copy or the comment that you made on that to be able to be better used on Twitter. Maybe taking the content and grabbing an important graphic from that and using it on Instagram. Those sorts of things. Take the content that you have, make it used for your best possible advantage. One way to be able to do that, in addition to cross-utilizing content, is to break apart content. Especially if you have a longer piece of content that you might be able to take in certain sections or chunks. You can make that content in such a way and reformat it to be able to stretch the utilization of that material. If you do a video that is a long-form video, a discussion with somebody, for example, maybe there was a good part of that conversation that could be snipped out, a minute or 2-minute version of that video, and repurposed for another post, or turned into an audio piece integrated with some other content that's being created. So take the content you have and make it usable in the best possible and maximizing way that you possibly can. Now, assigning roles. We've kind of talked about this a little already. Roles for executing the social media marketing plan should be assigned to those with the knowledge, expertise, and training to effectively engage with customers on the social web. So we talked about those that create the content that is used to engage with the customers. You want the ones that are very knowledgeable and are able to relate to the customers where they are at. You also want to have those in place that are savvy enough to know how the social media platforms work and to give guidance into making them work to their best advantage. So the people that know Facebook really well, for example, those that really know the audience on Instagram should be involved in the ways that you reach out to those people and working with the content creators to maximize the use of those social media platforms. Monitoring what's going on. Well, a couple of different things here. Tracking. Tracking is the process of finding and following content on the social web. Identify the right keywords and phrases for finding and following relevant data. So this is keeping up with what is going on and following the different trends that are out there, the things that are being said. It's kind of part of the listening process as well. It's a way to be able to get feedback on the things that you have put out there. Measuring. No social media marketing plan would be complete without well-defined quantitative and qualitative metrics to assess the headway being made in reaching the organization's marketing goals. Again, keep in mind, quantitative is pure numbers. How many people are responding? The qualitative metrics are the things that can't necessarily be defined into strong numbers, as much as kind of learning information about different demographics and some of the different sentiment that's going on, looking at psychographics to determine what certain segments of your population are thinking or doing, or their attitudes, their behavior, those sorts of things. Evaluating. Evaluation is the process of interpreting data once it has been measured with the intention to derive insights and understanding from it. The aim of an appropriately focused evaluation is to produce a thorough description of the progress of SMM activities over time to reveal where strategies have succeeded or nosedive, along with how things went right or wrong and why. So when you're evaluating, it's not just merely looking at the stats. It's trying to determine the motivation behind those stats and to see what may have caused this certain thing to happen or this certain thing to not have happened, and if there's changes that need to be made as a result. Selecting monitoring tools. Well-defined marketing goals should drive the decision regarding which social media metrics to measure, and consequently the selection of the most appropriate monitoring tools, because not every statistic is going to help you to be able to meet the goals that you have. You have to know what it is that you need to know, what measurements and metrics are going to help you to be able to change or to grow, to really get the feel of how you're doing, and make sure that you're using those to the strongest advantage that you possibly can. Tuning. This is the aspect of being flexible and changing things around as need be. It is the constant and continuous process of adjusting and improving the elements of the plan to maximize the chances of success. This process involves assessing a company's progress in implementing in social media strategies and then adjusting the SMM plan based on this feedback to optimize goal achievement. So once you've put things out there, once you've evaluated and assessed, you can then make whatever necessary changes that need to happen. Planning and executing SMM activities is, again, a never-ending cycle. Marketers must constantly monitor and tune the plan to attain the maximum results. Always evaluating, always tuning, always reevaluating, always tuning, listening, mixed in with that process as well. So we talk about these things as a cycle. Many times you're doing several of these elements in the cycle at once, and many elements in the plan as a result, all at once. Now, let's talk money. Budgeting. Spending in social media was growing dramatically in the following three criterias. The first one being internal soft costs, I should say. And these soft costs would be incorporated from staff to manage social media, training and education, also research and development. So all these things that aren't necessarily generating income for you, a return on the investment as much as it is the cost of doing business. Second, customer-facing initiatives in these areas, boutique agencies specializing in social media, This is where you may be using different tools to help you to be able to navigate through your social media presence. Spending on advertising and marketing, both in the online space and in traditional advertising and marketing. Traditional agencies developing social media campaigns and influencer and blogger programs, using those that are popular and followed strongly out there in the social media landscape and partnering with them to be able to strengthen your brand awareness and setting out your goals. The third metric, technology investment, and these are other things in which you need to budget for. Custom technology development, community platforms, brand monitoring, social customer relation management, and social media management systems. And all these things, the more that you are able to use different automated services that help aggregate information for you, yes, they're going to be costly, but they may wind up saving money in terms of man hours and time hours and research, and that may prove to be extremely valuable. Also, the growing importance of mobile marketing. This would be a fourth item to consider when it comes to your budget. Mobile marketing makes it necessary to consider mobile as an important platform for developing an engaged community, leading to increased brand loyalty. While many times the things that we do on mobile are things that can also be done on computers, sometimes there's an easier, more effective, more attractive way to do things on a tablet or smartphone that we need to think about differently and uniquely than we would on a normal PC. It is crucial to develop a social media policy that goes so far as to show employees the best way to be interesting, to add value, and to build their own networks online. So just as much as companies and organizations need to have policies on different sorts of things, from rules and regulations to public relations to all those sorts of things, the social media policy also needs to be in place, and the policy is something that needs to reflect the vision and mission of the social media marketing plan and of the company as a whole. The amount that a company should budget on social media marketing depends on a company's maturity level, whether it be a novice, an intermediate, or advanced when it comes to their presence on the web. Based on the Altimeter SMM budget questionnaire, and that is provided for you in your textbook to use as a gauge to determine how much of a monetary investment you should be making in your social media marketing plan. Calculating return on investment. It is often difficult, if not impossible, to calculate a financial return of investment, or ROI, for many SMM investments, especially those with qualitative goals. Return on investment tends to be a value that is expressed in a percentage format and is plugged into different formulas and those sorts of things. And you can't necessarily plug numbers in from qualitative data. So it can be a challenge to be able to determine what the ROI would be from these things. However, there is a guide. A proxy ROI could be used. It's an estimate of the long-term impact of SMM investments on customer response, and common proxy ROIs would include things like brand awareness, how many people are talking about your company, customer satisfaction, how's your approval rate, sentiment analysis, is the buzz that's being talked about out there positive or negative, share of voice, how are you seen as in terms of brand intelligence, product intelligence, do you have that thought leadership that people associate with the particular product service industry that you're involved with? Also, net promoter scores. All these things are going to be qualitative measurements that help to determine what your proxy ROI would be. Now, You've thought about all these things. You've written them down. You've put them in a nice, attractive document. It's time to present the ideas. With the SMM plan complete, the time has come to convince the C-suite that the investment in social media will pay off for the company. What is the C-suite? Well, the C-suite is a term widely used for corporations' top executives who have titles that often start with the letter C. So we're talking about your CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, and all the other ones that are listed there. The chiefs, if you will. The following are a few tips to help gain the buy-in of these top-level decision makers. First off, identify with the mindset of the executives. These are busy, big-picture people who want to hear the broad brushstrokes of the plan, not the minute details. So you don't want to get bogged down in the little idiosyncrasies of the numbers and the processes and all that sort of thing. They want to hear why your plan is going to work, why your plan is going to be effective, and the overall betterment of the company as a result of the efforts that you are trying to push forward. Show them the payoff. The ROI may likely have to be couched as proxy results, such as improved sentiment analysis scores, showing brand strengthening or improved customer relationship metrics, and those things don't always necessarily easily translate into profit margin. But they are things that most executives are going to understand, that the happier customers are with the business, the more customers are going to patronize the business, and that means more for the bottom line. Present a detailed budget request. Be as specific as possible as to what social media initiatives will cost and link the expenditures to desired outcomes. Be honest about how much things are going to take in terms of a financial investment, a time investment, a personnel investment, because these are all different costs that companies have to consider. Is the investment, the amount of the investment overall, going to be worth the plan that is being implemented and the results that are expected? Show them the timetable for reaching milestones. These milestones are often best given in conjunction with the metrics. So we talked about SMART goals. You want to have these things time specific. Again, it's a living document. The deadlines can change as need be, depending on the different types of goals and action steps and what needs to happen. So again, it's a living document, but you do want to have a plan in place as to when certain ideas and when certain realizations will be made. Finally, close the deal. Summarize the key benefits of the implementing of the plan while being transparent about potential downsides and the presentations that will be taken, the preparations rather, that will be taken to mitigate them if they occur. So you want to be honest and upfront about what the cons are of the plan, just as much as you're talking up the pros. Underscore that having a plan and executing it efficiently enables the company to act proactively rather than retroactively on the social web and be able to measure results. So there you have it. That is putting together a social media marketing plan from start to finish. And that is the notes for Chapter 15. Make sure you take a look at the study questions. Be prepared to talk about discussion points when we gather together. And contact me with any questions or issues.